mic setup anymore. I had to unplug my mic because I have to do a whole new configuration with it. So we're using terrible audio tonight.
We have the same microphone though. That's hilarious.
Love a Yeti mic. Love a Yeti mic.
We do. Yeti mics are superior. I actually had to buy mine because when we started going online for university, they were trying to find a way for choir to still rehearse online. So they got us Yeti microphones to try. Yeah,
I love that. That's so good.
I kept it forever. Yeah.
I love that. That's literally so fun. What a good reason to get a microphone sent to you, and they're expensive, so that's wonderful.
They are. No, I felt very grateful that I just kind of stole it. Yeah, I think they asked for them back, and I just forgot the email. It's cool.
You do what you gotta do. Well, welcome to Late Night with Liz, everybody. If you haven't watched before, this is the show where we interview different TikTok creators about their content and being a Marvel fan these days. And we have the wonderful Livtastic Nerd 99 joining me for tonight's conversation. So hello to you. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? I know you have a lot of people watching on your feed, but for people watching on YouTube and Twitch and on my stream who might not know you, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us about your content.
So I'm known as Livtastic Nerd 99. People ask about the number, but it's just because for some reason Livtastic Nerd was already taken, and I was born in 1999, so I just went with that number. Yeah, just good. I knew there wasn't going to be 98 other Livtastic Nerds, so I felt like I was going to be safe.
Safe bet.
Exactly. And I mostly kind of make skits on Marvel content using Marvel characters. I sometimes talk about them, but I have a hard time concisely saying what I want to say, so I don't make rant videos or theory videos as often, but lots of skits, lots of random Marvel related things on my TikTok.
Yes, so totally. And are you a Star Wars fan too?
Oh, major Star Wars fan. It's funny, when I first started making TikToks, it was just kind of on nerd culture in general. So it was kind of both Marvel and Star Wars, but my Marvel videos were doing better and I knew more about that fandom anyway, so I kind of stuck to Marvel. But if you scroll far enough back in my TikTok, there's a lot of Star Wars videos there as well. I love Star Wars.
So an all-around fandom kind of person. I love that. Yeah. When did you start becoming a Marvel fan? When did you enter this community?
Oh man. Forever ago. So the very first Marvel film I ever saw in theaters was Iron Man 1 in 2008, the first Iron Man movie with Robert Downey Jr. My dad he took me to see it in theaters. I was 8 years old. And I remember because then a month or two later, I was at my friend's house and their dad had all these old comic books sitting in one of his rooms that we just kind of found. And they were all of some of Captain America's first comics. And I was like, oh, these are kind of interesting. And so I kept reading them and I've been stuck in this fandom ever since.
Stuck here ever since. I love that.
They never let me go.
You're an OG kind of person. I think you're wearing some merch tonight, maybe. Are you wearing?
Yeah. It's an embroidered sweater that just says America's ass on it, and it has Captain America's butt embroidered on it.
Hilarious. I love it. It's definitely a fun time to be a Marvel fan, with the accessibility of fan-made merch and the shows coming out, and just it feels like we're in a whole new world than we used to be.
Absolutely. Well, and it's crazy because I grew up with Marvel, but especially when I was younger, the MCU wasn't even really a thing yet. So I remember when you maybe had one superhero movie coming out a year, or if it was, you didn't think they were related and all this stuff. And now it's really snowballed to this huge community. I don't even know how else to it's insane. One time David Tennant was the nerds have taken over the world and it's fantastic. And I'm that's kind of what it feels like. I've just slowly watched nerds take over mainstream media and participation. True. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really become mainstream, which is super fun to see, and it makes the community kind of diversify and change as well, which is fun. And speaking of the community, you've got a pretty cool community that follows you. 100,000 folks over on your corner of TikTok,
which is insane.
Yeah, it must feel insane.
That was gonna happen. Yeah, every time I go to check my follower count, because it's funny. So my best friend who I met through TikTok, she is about to get her degree in social media marketing. So she's now my social media manager. Mm-hmm. So we have to go over my numbers and stuff every week. And every time I check it, I'm still not entirely sure it's real. I'm there's no way that's actually that many people.
That's not a real number, right?
That's not a real thing.
A couple states filled with people, or I guess if you're in America,
it'll say exactly. It'll say 104K. And I'm that's 104 people, not 104,000 people. That's not real. That's not a real thing.
Absolutely.
Especially not for something like this. I'm sure everyone relates if you were a nerd growing up, like it's not something you openly talked about a lot because not a lot of people shared that interest. It was a little bit more niche. People made fun of you for it, whatever. So it's like weird to think that I have such a big following over something that was like, to me at least, like so nerdy that I never really talked about before. But
so what do you think ties your community together?
I think, I mean, Marvel's kind of a big one. I think a lot of it though, especially because a lot of my viewers tend to be younger, I think it's definitely the she's, the theys, and the gays for sure. But I think a lot of it is just being able to enjoy something without being worried about like how other people feel about it or think about you because of it. Like I had a lot of, I guess not really friends, but like, you know, my family would call me a dork or a nerd, or like at school, people were like, oh, you're kind of ridiculous, or this is weird and obsessive. Like all the kind of weird things that people say when you're part of a fandom in general. But I think what ties a lot of people together, at least from what I've seen on my TikTok, is just like being able to enjoy something so freely without judgment, I think is always one of the coolest things about being able to make content like this, is because like I think my videos are dorky and stupid. I purposefully make them that way. I'm a political science major, and I, at the time, was working at the Senate. And so if I wasn't in class, I was at work. So I either had to be really professional or very like academically impressive. And so it was nice to like blow off steam and make like the most ridiculous, dorky, stupid videos I could think of. And it seems to be what a lot of people enjoy, is just kind of like silliness and just openly enjoying something without criticism is really nice.
Absolutely. And you've kind of had a few different like phases of your content as well, I think. And I think like the yellow wall phase was like a big like moment, right? Where you know, you can recognize TikTokers by like their hair, like their cosplay, like whatever, like distinct voice is one, or distinct setup is another. And I think when you're on the For You page, you were scrolling and you saw the yellow walls, you really knew this was like a fantastic video coming out.
No, that was crazy. I'm literally from Las Vegas, and I go to school in Washington, D.C. And near, you know, the summer of the pandemic, I was supposed to be working that summer, but of course, like the pandemic happened instead. But I'd already signed this year-long lease with this house. But we never got the chance to go and tour it since we were all sent home before. So I had no idea what this house was going to look like. And I walked in, and like our living room was dark red. Some of the bedrooms were like this weird lime green, and like some of the bathrooms were yellow, and like this one girl's room was like, it was like pink, it was weird, but only my room was this like aggressive mustard yellow. It was crazy. My friend, as a joke for my birthday, got me the girl who lived with yellow walls. It's literally that girl who goes crazy because her walls are painted yellow. Yeah. It felt like that a little bit. Because it gets so cold in DC, I spent so much time in my room. And sometimes those TikToks, I'd be making them at like 4 a.m. But like TikTok filters and lighting and everything had bright
yellow walls. They really would help.
Yeah, I tried to tone it down as much as I could. Like as bright as you think those yellow walls were, like it's not even a fraction of how aggressively yellow that room was. It was so crazy. Oh my gosh.
So that phase of content is the door is shut on the yellow room, and now you're in a new space, you're in a new lane. I do want to say, if you have questions that you want me to ask, make sure you come over to either my TikTok feed or YouTube or Twitch so I can see them. I can't see the comments you get on your TikTok live. So if you're asking questions.
If you guys are asking questions, go on their live feed so that they can see them. Just so we can actually read your questions and answer them.
Absolutely. I don't want anyone to feel like we can't see what's going on. And I have a comment coming through from Kylie on mine saying, you guys are two of my favorite creators. Love you both. Thank you so much, Kylie. Love right back to you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my goodness. That's always like the best compliment, because I know how many wonderful creators there are out there. So whenever people are like, oh my gosh, this is like my favorite series or some of my favorite TikToks or one of my favorite creators, it's like an incredibly humbling comment to receive all the time. Because it's crazy.
Let's talk about your series, because you have a couple that you do that are kind of fun and again like have evolved over time. When I think of your account, I think of the Marvel reading tweets. I think of the karaoke. I think of the cosplays that you do. What was the first series that, you know, everyone trials and errors different ideas, but what was the first series you did that made you feel like you were really onto something?
This is the series that like launched my TikTok career, was the Quinjet Codename series, if anyone remembers those. I'm actually bringing it back because Eternals just came out with so many characters for me to use. But when I'd started making TikToks, it was originally because like all my friends just peer pressured me into having an account. And then I was like, well, fine, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it about like random dorky things I like. Nobody really has to know about it. It's my TikTok, like whatever. And I was watching Thor Ragnarok one day, and that scene where Thor's trying to get on the Quinjet and like keeps guessing nicknames that Tony set for him. I was like, I wonder what, Tony would set for all the other characters who needed voice activations. And so then I made that a skit, and like overnight it had like hundreds of thousands of likes, on over 1 million views. Like it just exploded, and everyone was like, I need more of this. And so then every day I'd come out with more and more characters because the MCU only has like 50 million of them. So it was like pretty self-sustaining for a while. And it's funny, my friend, same person who's now my social media manager, she's like, if you think about it, all of your series tie together. Because I started a prank war series after that, because people are like, well, are the Avengers ever going to get back at Tony for setting their nicknames to be all these ridiculous things? I was like, if you guys want a prank war, I'll make a prank war. And then in the prank war came like the Peter is a Danger to Society series, and it branched out into all these other like Avengers and sitcoms and all these other different things that I do. But that was the big one. I went from like, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred followers to like 30,000 in an evening. It was insane.
That's incredible. That just shows the power of TikTok, right? When you hit a niche, you hit it hard.
Absolutely. TikTok just like launched me into like being a creator. That was never my plan. I never like thought that would be a thing. And then TikTok was like, nope, and just like pulled me right into it. And now it's literally taking over my life. Yeah.
So of the content you're doing today, what's your favorite series that you currently have going?
Oh, well, it's interesting. So the last couple of weeks I've been like dealing with some in real life stuff that's gotten in the way of filming things. And the bigger series updates take the longest to film, which is why there aren't as many of them. But especially with things calming down and my schedule coming back together, the reaction videos, the Avengers reacting to the MCU, it's not only really fun to film and gives me an excuse to just rewatch all my favorite movies and shows, but the filming process has actually gotten slightly easier, which I can't say for some of the other series updates. So as far as like being easy to film, but also something I know a lot of people really enjoy that takes slightly more effort, it's a lot of fun.
Totally. And I want to shout out Leah's Nerf Herder, who just commented that question to you from my feed. So shout out to you for asking that one. And I have another question here from JJBWay Watch, who wants to know what cosplay are you dying to do next?
Oh man. So I actually have a cosplay coming out next week that I can't tell any about because I'm actually contractually obligated not to say who it is.
There we go.
No, it's crazy. TikTok opened up opportunities that I like never even began to imagine, but I'm really excited. It's a new character from Phase 4. And actually, so here's what's frustrating. I bought an actual like cosplay outfit, like $150. Everyone knows cosplay is expensive. And I like paid for expedited shipping. It was supposed to get here before I needed to film it. And then there was apparently like a processing order, and the company they never got the order, so they never made it to send it to me.
Oh no.
But I just so happened to have like enough of the clothing pieces to like kind of make an approximation of what it's supposed to look like.
Right on.
But I'm really excited for that one. I'm just not allowed to talk about it yet until next week. But
so next week, when you see that new cosplay, everyone go drop supportive comments, supportive likes, hype you up.
Oh yeah, no, it was crazy. Because it's for this big thing that I've been like so excited to tell people about, but I'm like not allowed to.
Well, we won't ask any questions. We'll let it remain a mystery until next week.
Like I will say though, like highlight of my career, like not even working in the Senate, like this thing, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I'm really excited for you guys to see it, hopefully very soon. But yeah, I was really excited for that cosplay. And honestly, like if I had like all the money in the world and I could just invest in a really good one, I'd love to be Thena. Like her entire outfit in Eternals, I was like, I want that. Yes,
absolutely.
For sure.
So let's talk about Phase 4, because a lot of new characters have come, a lot of new projects have been launching. Let's talk about the shows first, because the shows are kind of about to come back, but not including what's to come. Thinking about like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki specifically, what's been your favorite kind of moment so far?
Oh man, well, what I love about each of them is they're all about something very specific. Like Wanda is a lot about like mental health and how people process trauma. Loki's a lot about LGBTQ representation and kind of like rediscovering himself. which is really interesting, sometimes in the worst way, but can't do anything about that right now. But I think one of my favorite moments has to be is it the third or fourth? No, the third episode of WandaVision, the 60s episode when like Wanda starts to see the cracks in her reality. And what I loved about that, especially for the launch of Phase 4, is when we first watched WandaVision, it was like a year and a half after having no Marvel content. There was nothing. And with the way that they had been kind of marketing the show, we had no idea really what was happening, what Marvel was planning to do, what kind of a show this was going to look like. And so when we started to see the cracks in this kind of narrative from Wanda's perspective, at least, we're like, oh, this is about to get really good. Like the excitement had already built, but that's when we were like, oh my God, what is happening? Like everyone's mind kind of just collectively exploded. And that's what I kind of love about Marvel in general, is that like we know it's all fake, but it feels very real. And I just remember watching that and I was like, oh my gosh, this is about to get so intense, so crazy, so insane. So that was, I think, a favorite moment just collectively to experience with everybody. As a political science major, I loved Falcon and Winter Soldier, just because I was like, yes, this is what I talk about in my classes all the time. It's a little bit harder for me to relate to just because it's not really an issue that I am associated with. It's a lot about politics in the United States, which I do study, but specifically around race and like kind of identity politics. And I clearly do not look like I'm part of any kind of group who has a problem with that in my day-to-day life. But I think it put out a really great message. I like that. Oh my gosh. So sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, where was I? Anyways, I think it put out a really great message. And I'm kind of proud that Marvel isn't as afraid now to be a little bit more controversial or outspoken. Disney normally doesn't do that, so I was surprised that they did that with this show. And Loki was very interesting. Again, as a comic book nerd, like I'm very excited for a break in the multiverse. Hold on. I'm getting feedback, I think, from you a little bit.
Yeah, do you have your TikTok live feed turned down all the way on your phone?
I do, but I'll double check. Weird. Anyway, yeah, no, I can still hear myself from your side, which is strange.
Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, because I'm muted on my phone. Or at least as muted as I can be.
There, let's see if that difference for you.
That definitely, we're good.
There we go. Awesome. Keep going.
Amazing. Anyways, Loki was great. I'm really excited for a break in the multiverse. Again, as a comic book nerd, like a lot of the times, especially in high school, when like Infinity War was coming out and we had all these like kind of crossovers, like people would come to me for questions about it. And they're like, well, what do you think about this? Or like this? Or what about this? Or when they were alluding to Jane taking over as female Thor, they're like, is that really a thing? And when I would try to explain it, they would look at me like I'd grown 2 heads. They were like, what is the Kree? I don't understand what that is. I'm like, oh, it's this alien race, but they're like kind of the good guys, but not really. And like all this. And so it's nice that it's becoming mainstream. Like I don't have to be the one who like looks insane for having a niche interest. But it's Loki's kind of the start of that. And I love that they started with the character that technically is the catalyst for the Infinity Stone like saga as well. Like it started with Loki in the first Avengers movie, and the next one's going to be kind of a parallel of that, but from very different points of view, which is interesting. So I'm excited. Totally. I really like it. Plus, as a bisexual, I love bi representation. I'm a little bit upset that gender fluidity wasn't in there, but I'll totally accept bisexuality, especially from Disney, who tends to shy away from that. So I was excited to see that.
Absolutely. And we talked a lot about that during our Loki After series as well, which is available on YouTube to rewatch. So I totally hear you on that. And we have the Hawkeye show coming up soon, and we're excited. I can officially share with everybody watching that we are doing a Hawkeye After series, TikTok Live, YouTube, and Twitch. It's starting the Sunday after the first episode comes up. We'll be live. More details coming on that tomorrow. I have another question coming through here from JJ Waywatch. Again, if you want to ask questions, make sure you're on my TikTok feed. I can't see the comments that Liv's getting. How do you think the MCU will handle the multiverse with comics and movies being such different mediums?
Okay, so it's funny. I know I said I rarely make rant videos, but I actually made one for this. I don't know if everybody's seen him, but his videos are great where I can't remember his name right now, but he'll do like the MCU version and like the 616 version of different characters
Nikhil
interacting with
Clayton.
each other. Thank you. Yes.
Nikhil was on our show. He did an interview with us back
Nikhil.
in May. Love Nikhil.
He's fantastic. I love him. And someone in the comment section was like, every time I see one of these videos, I gain more and more respect for the MCU writers for creating a coherent story. And I was like, yes. Yeah. When I made a video once on gatekeeping in the nerd community and how you don't have to have read the comic books to be a true Marvel fan, which I wholeheartedly believe, especially because comic books can be hard to get to and read, or there's so many of them, like it's hard to catch up. It's a big time commitment. But people who try to either discredit other Marvel fans by using the comic books, I'm like, it is fairly cohesive. I'm like, Steve Rogers himself has died like 4 or 5 different times because it's the same story. Earth 616 is the main universe, and it hasn't had a hard reset since it started in the late 50s. So it's an almost 60-year-long story with a lot of these same characters because they know what sells and what works. And I think when it comes to the multiverse, it's going to be something similar where like you'll get glimpses of other universes and how they'll interact with each other. Like, especially with the new Spider-Man movie, I think Tobey Maguire will be in it. I mean, it's confirmed that Andrew Garfield and Tobey will be in there.
Not confirmed for people watching that don't want spoilers. That has not been confirmed by official sources yet.
No, definitely not. But I think they're going to try to contain it to whatever is pertinent for that movie. Normally in the comic books, you'll have times where entire universes will merge together. You'll have breaks. There'll be entire comic book lines just about alternate universes and what happens in those instead. But I think as far as the movie goes, and anytime that there's a break in the multiverse or, you know, some of the same character, they're going to try to keep it to like that specific franchise. So like you're really only going to see the different Spider-Man interacting in Spider-Man movies or movies in relation to that. I don't think you're going to see like Tobey Maguire randomly show up in like a Guardians of the Galaxy film, which is one of the only ways I think they could really make that cohesive. Especially like Doctor Strange will probably be involved in a lot of them, but he'll just be dealing with whatever multiverse breaks are like related to the specific character in the movie with him. So, I mean, at least that's the only way that I would know how to organize that. Just because it is a lot. There's so many comic books.
And there's so many different projects coming out. I think a real like diversity of stories that are coming from Marvel over the next year, like a bit more than years past. So is there a particular project that you're most looking forward to?
Oh, there's so many. I'm really excited for Moon Knight, just because I absolutely love the character in the comic books. I minor in history at American University, specifically in ancient civilizations and the antiquities period. And like ancient Egypt, like everybody had like that ancient civilization when they're like 5 that they were super fascinated by. Mine was Egyptian culture and mythology and anthology. And so I actually took an entire course on that. And I was like so excited when I started reading the Moon Knight series because it's all about Egyptian culture and tradition and heritage. So I'm really excited to see that. And like, I don't know. I'm just excited for like the whole idea. But I do love that Marvel, especially like the What If series, Marvel's like finding new ways to tell all these stories instead of their kind of like formulaic, I guess, structure that they normally use for like their movies or even some of their shows. And so I'm excited just to see how they start retelling some of these. Also, Miss Marvel is going to be great. And She-Hulk, oh my goodness. I love her. I want to be a lawyer one day. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's like Elle Woods, like and I was like, no, She-Hulk. Like, you don't understand. In the comic books, she's like a kick-ass lawyer with anger management problems. And that's who I want to be when I grow up. I'm so excited. And I just found out Jamila Al-Jamil is going to be in it. Tahani from The Good Place. The cast already looks amazing. So I'm very excited for the show as well. Should be fun.
It'll be a fun one for sure. I know the preview that just came out on Disney Plus today was incredible. It was short, but it was incredibly promising.
So good.
So let's pivot to the movies that have come out so far in Phase 4. What's kind of been the top of your list of the projects we've gotten?
Oh, man. I mean, Eternals was fantastic. I think a lot of the discourse on the difference between like critics and who actually appreciates movies is a really important thing to cover. There are a lot of different reasons to dislike Brie Larson, but she was not lying when she said that like the people who these movies are made for aren't the ones critiquing and reviewing them. And it can, you know, they did the math and they said if all the reviewers of Eternals were women of color, Eternals would have gotten an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes instead of the like 30 whatever percent. So I think just the movie in general, as far as like diversity and how diversity should be represented in film, it's already spectacular. But as someone who has ADHD and neurodivergency, like they managed to keep my attention for 2.5 hours. I was like actively engaged. I always thought they were going to go in one direction, but ended up doing something else. Like there were surprises in there. It wasn't as predictable. And it broke away from that kind of formula that they usually use in their movies, but it still felt like a Marvel film, which I think they always do a really good job of kind of making sure that that ties into all the other projects. So, oh my gosh, I loved it. Plus the characters are all just spectacular and the cast was so good. I will say my only criticism of Eternals is that they had 2 of the most popular Game of Thrones actors on the in the movie, and they're both in love with a character named Cersei, and there wasn't even just like one Game of Thrones pun. Like there wasn't one joke reference.
A missed opportunity for sure.
A little bit disappointed, but I'll take it.
So did you have a favorite Eternal from the project?
Oh man, so many. I mean, Thena was fantastic. I love that Angelina Jolie can still make me feel jealous that she is like more fit, has more energy, and is more amazing than me. And she's like, isn't she like in her early 50s now? Like she looks incredible, and that's like not fair. But it's so bad because right now I'm getting. The problem is I'm terrible with names, so I keep screwing all of their names up.
It's okay.
But I loved the idea too of someone who is immortal but stuck in a child's body in human society.
Sprite, yeah.
Right. I loved sprites. Well, no. I found their character.
No we won't do spoilers for people who might not have seen the movie.
We won't do spoilers, but I really liked that idea of if they really just kind of like randomly produced creatures to look similar to humans, that not all of them would be the same age. Especially because I think it was Amanda who pointed out that Druid and what's her name? It's gonna kill me right now. Makari, thank you. Their relationship. So the actor that plays Druid, he's 25 and she's 44, I want to say. And they were like, normally in Hollywood, it's normal for a female lead to have a male interest that's like 10, 20, 30 years their senior in a movie. Like that's for some reason become really normalized. And a lot of the times those actresses are really young, like between the ages of 20 and 25. And as women get older, they lose those roles, even though men, as they get older, continue to have the same amount. They're like, it's really cool to just see that flipped and nobody like raise alarm, nobody being like, hey, that's weird. Like anytime that there's an age difference when a female is older, there's some kind of weird, like fetishized idea, like The Graduate. And it was really cool to just see that be like a normal thing. Also, everybody's signing to each other. I'm taking Intro to Sign Language actually this semester. Cool. And I love the idea that that was just incorporated into the movie. It was awesome. Like
yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to ShangChi, I thought of you when we saw that karaoke scene. It felt like a nice 2 worlds colliding moment. Yes. What did you think when you saw that scene between Shang and Katie?
I loved it. It was so funny. I love the karaoke videos that I made just because they were easier for me to make. And they were kind of ridiculous, but I love Shang-Chi. I think it's one of the better solo superhero films for sure. Again, antiquities, ancient civilizations major. I took 2 whole semesters on Chinese civilization and the attention to detail, especially culturally for Chinese tradition, was spectacular. All the mythical creatures in the parallel universe, that did not make sense. Universe. They were all creatures that exist in Chinese mythology. And I loved that attention to detail there. The special effects too were amazing. And Simu Liu was like the perfect casting and Awkwafina was spectacular. So I love that whole movie. But that scene, I remember watching it and being like, I'm going to get a request for it next time I make a Marvel karaoke scene. I just like already knew.
You could feel it coming as soon as you saw it.
I felt it in my soul.
That's very funny.
They're gonna ask.
So speaking of karaoke, let's talk about music for a few minutes because I think everybody watching owes you a belated happy birthday. You just turned 22.
I did.
And you posted a very funny video of you listening to 22 Taylor's version for your birthday. So how was your birthday? Did you listen to 22? Did you have your Taylor Swift birthday?
I did. So funnily enough, my roommate Abby, who I love dearly,
shout out to Abby.
She's wonderful. She not burst into my room because we share a room, but she like burst open our bedroom door, was like, get up, it's your birthday. And then just started blasting 22 in our speaker. And she like brought me back with some bed. It was super sweet and really nice. And then the rest of the day, it was funny because I was trying to think of like what to post for my birthday. And I had my like Saturdays with Maria Hill video like already ready to go, but I was like, I need something else. But I didn't feel like getting dressed up or like doing my hair and makeup or whatever. So I was like, you know what? Like, her album just came out 2 days ago. I've been watching the Jake Gyllenhaal slander. Like, this is great. So I just got under my Doctor Who blanket, grabbed all my stuffed animals, and just made that video. I think it's actually one of my favorite videos I've ever made.
Sometimes it's fun to just make something fun and topical to the moment, right?
Yeah. It was funny. I called my mom and I was like, what if I did something like this? And my mom was like, you should absolutely do that. That'd be hilarious. And I was like, well, if I have mom's approval, then I'm
And the timing of it as well was like absolutely perfect, right?
Yeah. Well, and I remember when the Red album first came out in like 2000, I was like 11 years old. And I think I just gone through one of those like really stupid, not real, like middle school breakups. And so my friends
very
just,
real
like,
in the moment though.
They feel real at the time. But now looking back, I'm like, that was stupid. But my friends and I, we just like blasted the entire album in like my friend's older sister's car. So like I remembered listening to it and I was like, of course on my 22nd birthday, Taylor comes through and pushes out her new album.
Yeah.
So I loved it.
I love that. So now looking at the album, and I wanted to play this game with you. I wanted to think about like some of the Marvel characters, maybe some of the new Marvel characters. If they were going to karaoke, which Taylor Swift songs do you think? Which Taylor's version songs do you think they'd be picking for?
Well, Peter Parker 100% is singing All Too Well. There's no way to not get
10-minute version.
Yeah, when it's just Jake Gyllenhaal slander. Like, I think I put that in my comments. I was like, who needs Spider-Man when we have T Swift? Like, she just destroyed Mysterio.
Yeah, single-handedly.
Single-handedly. I think Tony Stark would sing Red about Pepper. I don't really know why, but
strawberries.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just get that vibe from him. Man, I really have to start thinking about all the songs on the album. I've been listening to like 3 of them on repeat specifically.
There's like The Moment I Knew, which is another sad song about Jake Gyllenhaal.
That's true. The Moment I Knew. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many. The Moment I Knew, I feel like could apply to Civil War just in general. Not any one specific, but like I just feel like that scene when Tony watches his parents die and he like turns to Steve and he's like, "Did you know?" And Steve has that look on his face. Like
that was the moment. That's a perfect answer. That is definitely the moment he knew.
Yeah. So that's the other problem with my karaoke videos is I try to put as many different characters in there as possible, but sometimes like a lot of songs just tend to apply to more characters or to the same character more often, and so I have to like, I guess it's kind of a creative exercise in like trying to also find characters that match lyrics, but. It's a fun time.
We have JJ here in the chat asking specifically if we think about some MCU couples, which couples do you think match different Taylor Swift songs? I know like Holy Ground is a really fun song to think about in terms of happy couples.
Hold on.
I think that when I think Holy Ground, I think like Bucky and Sarah and the doc, like, you know, the doc's Holy Ground.
Gosh, that'd be so cute. I love that idea. I think Wanda and Vision would 100%. Why can't I think of the name of the song? I miss Country Taylor, but
Mood.
Say Yes, or what was it? Yeah, that's the name of the song, right?
What are the lyrics? What are you thinking?
I remember where I can't.
It's okay.
Here right now, but like, oh my gosh, what's the song where she's literally like, Love Story.
Love Story. Yeah,
Love Story would 100% be WandaVision. Like that, especially when they try to keep their relationship alive when Wanda was kind of on the run. Like that's 100% like their entire love story, just slightly less healthy near the end. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You Belong With Me, I feel like is a little bit Tony and Steve, just because he felt like Steve chose Bucky over him, and I thought that was really funny. But that could also be flipped around. Like Bucky could 100% sing that one too. Gosh, I mean, a lot of them are just sad. It's weird because I feel like there are so many Marvel relationships, but then when I think about them, like not really, or at least ones that have like really stood the test of time.
Or canon versus what everyone decides is ship-worthy.
Exactly. So I'm like, some of the ones that are canon, I kind of wish weren't. But even ones like Gamora and Star-Lord, I'm like, there are a couple of songs that could apply to them, but it's just weird knowing now that, you know, they had to break up and then she doesn't remember him anymore. So it's a totally different situation. That's the only weird thing, especially with comic books, is like the way that they wrote relationships are so much more complicated than we're used to, especially when it comes to movies. So I'm like interested to see how that plays out in some of the newer films. But But yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, if for those of you that have watched the show and tune in every week, you know that a couple things are true. One, we can't go a show without talking about Taylor Swift, and then two, we think every Taylor Swift song is a conspiracy about Bucky Barnes. We constantly tie Taylor to Bucky. We think it's completely synced up.
Yeah. Does anyone watching, I guess, but the Avengers video game that was on iOS for a while.
Oh my god, yeah.
One of my favorite things was that like one of Bucky's activities was that he plays guitar. And I think I found a fan fiction once where like all of Bucky's songs were specifically Taylor Swift songs that he wrote. So I love that you already tied that conspiracy together. Like,
absolutely. We literally have hours of footage available to rewatch on the YouTube. If you go to Producer Liz and the YouTube, you can see we did a couple different Taylor Swift musical episodes. We've cast Rogers the musical a few times. There's all kinds of different stuff.
Rogers the musical. I'm so interested to see like if like Rogers and Hammerstein were to write like Rogers the musical, how would that even happen? But I love it anyway.
So do you have any predictions for the show of what you think might be coming for Rogers the musical?
Oh, Rogers the musical. Let's see. Well, I feel like Andrew Lloyd Webber would produce it for some reason. Like I feel like he would make sure that he gets his hands on it first. I could see a possible like Idina Menzel casting for Peggy, just because I feel like she wants to get back on Broadway, and that would be a little bit lower key role for her. It would be pretty funny. I don't know. Predictions. I feel like they would find a way to like the one I immediately think of is when he's on his USO tour, and I for some reason thought of, if anyone knows the musical Chicago, when they have that whole scene of like how he plays the press with them like kind of as puppets, and like I feel like they would do something really similar of the idea of Steve feeling like a dancing monkey. I'm sure they would over dramatize Steve going into the ice even more than it is already. I don't know how they would do it, but like Broadway would find a way. I could totally
Broadway will find a way.
Broadway will find a way. I could totally see them also kind of spicing up Steve and Bucky's relationship more, which again, not sure how that would really be possible given the context, but they could do it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be interesting. And then a lot of the choreography would be like it would have military marches in it somehow. Like you know how Broadway does. They would find a way to put that on choreography, but
yeah, and we will continue over the next few weeks talking about Rogers the musical. We'll see what happens when Hawkeye decides to reveal their plans to us. But looking towards the end of this year, there's still a lot coming from Marvel, including Spider-Man. We'd be remiss to not talk about No Way Home during this. How are you feeling? We won't talk about the spoilers happening or anything like that, but how do you feel about coming to the end of Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Like, what's been your relationship with Spider-Man like over the years?
Yeah. So I love Spider-Man in general, especially because until I really watched Iron Man in 2008, it didn't like connect with me that especially like Marvel and DC were two different things. Because like superhero movies were just superhero movies. So I'd watch like some of the old Batman films and Superman films and then Spider-Man. And I loved Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It's a very nostalgic feeling to watch. And so when I can't be a spoiler now because the movie came out like 2 years ago, but in Far From Home, that's unseen with James Jonah Jameson, but like the original actor, I like lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, it's him. He's here. They like made the reference. That's hilarious. And the other thing was, especially with the whole contract negotiation between Sony and Disney, I was a little bit worried about that movie and slightly worried about this movie. But what I think is happening, especially with the way that they have been leaking things and the way that they've been kind of like managing how they market Spider-Man, I bet you like $1 million that somehow Sony and Disney have managed to keep under wraps that they have like more plans to include some of Sony's movies as like an alternate universe in the MCU.
Ooh.
So like
that's a theory for sure.
Right? So some of the theories are that the reason why it's called No Way Home is because Tom Holland somehow gets stuck in the Sony universe with No Way Home. And that's part of the reason why they named it. But the only way that Disney would sign off on that is if there was some way for them to still be involved in those projects. So it's possible we either get like a flip, one of the other Spider-Man gets stuck in the MCU, or we get to see Tom Holland trying to figure out how to get back to his multiverse, but like with Venom and everybody else coming out in all the Sony films. So it should be interesting. But the only way those studios would allow something like that is if they're both working on it together. So it's possible that they managed to keep a separate contract negotiation like under wraps that will come out after the movie has been produce. So it should be really interesting. But I like the nostalgia in this next film is going to hit harder than anything else. Because when you grow up with Marvel, but you saw like I remember when Fantastic Four came out and I had to like remember that Chris Evans was actually in it. But like I remember all the old movies, so to like kind of acknowledge those as well and bring that all together is something I think DC misses a little bit in their films. And so I love that Marvel's like really embracing that and bringing it all together.
Totally.
I think it's a really great opportunity. So I'm so excited.
So excited. I love that. And it'll be interesting to see like which theories like come forward and what ends up being true, what ends up, being like, false red herrings to keep people off track. Have there been any theories about projects this year that like you've been convinced about that ended up not coming true, that ended up being like a red herring in the mix?
Well, I have actually been actively trying not to, because after the whole WandaVision fiasco where everyone was like over theorizing everything only for Marvel to do like the exact opposite somehow of everyone's theories, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna let Marvel like surprise me this year, and I'm just gonna let them do what they do, and I'm going to try to stay out of the theories as much as I can. One of the things that I kind of thought was going to happen but didn't, one of them was Loki and Mobius, which upset me a little bit. But I was a little bit surprised by that show, especially with how they treated the Infinity Stones. And how they kind of like restarted the multiverse only for it to kind of like all come back together in a split second. But I'm trying to think, even just theories that I thought I had. Some of them, especially in Falcon Winter Soldier, I kind of guessed. There wasn't a lot, I think, that really surprised me as far as theories that didn't already happen. But I think it's just because there's some of the most obvious ones. I tried not to stretch too far, like get my hopes up too much to be like sorely disappointed. But like Loki and Mobius definitely hit a little bit different because I was like so excited for that queer representation, only for them to resort to self-cess. Which
we got different queer representation.
Yeah, different queer representation, and it wasn't really what we were asking for. But again, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of theories coming up, especially now that there's rumors that they're reshooting parts of Doctor Strange 2. But what I found interesting about that is that we already knew that they'd filmed different alternate endings and alternate scenes. So I'm like, what more do they need for that movie now that Spider-Man is coming out? So I don't know.
And they're reshooting parts of Spider-Man, so it's really up in the air. I don't think anyone knows how it's all gonna end.
Exactly. It's really up in the air. So I feel like even some of the producers, except for really just like Kevin Feige and like the directors, like really know exactly what's about to happen in the next couple of months. So really any theory is up in the air. But it's so addicting that I'm like trying to stay out of it from just like going absolutely insane.
Staying out of the theories, but you are back in TikTok. You are kind of officially come back to make more content. I know a lot of folks are excited that you're going to try your best to come back and bring your series back to life. And I know a lot of people have missed you over the past few weeks. So for everyone watching that's excited for your return to their TikTok for you pages, what can people expect from you over the next few weeks? You've hinted that you have an exciting collaboration coming. What else can people expect from you?
So I do have a very exciting collaboration. Bringing back some of the old series like Quinjet Codenames, especially with all of those new characters coming out. Part of what was the stall with that earlier was because I'd pretty much gone through most of the characters at that point, even with the series coming out, because a lot of them were characters that already existed in the MCU. And it's harder to make codename videos when they're new content because they could possibly be spoilers. It's really hard to make like spoiler-free codenames because the jokes just like write themselves. Especially with some of the cast of the Eternals. Like I'm sure people who've seen the movie already can guess some of the jokes I want to make but can't because they're spoilers. But I do plan to bring that back. Modern Avengers is going to be coming back very soon, just because it's fun to make, and I always come up with these really funny ideas, and I'm like, I should get back into making those. The other one that I'm bringing back, which I've actually, part of it is because I had it planned so far ahead when I started the series, is A Tale of Two Starks, with Tony Stark and Natasha Stark in it. But it's actually kind of an exercise in writing a multiverse series, which was kind of my challenge in the first place, because a lot of people ask me questions about comic books that I have answers to, sure, but it's weird to try to like catch them up on so much history of comic book lore. And so like season 1 of Tale of Two Starks is going to be coming to an end soon, but season 2 is going to be kind of the gang exploring the multiverse a little bit.
Exciting.
Back to her universe. So then like I just get an excuse to like show off my comic book knowledge. Like they're going to go to Timely. They're going to see like zombie universe. They're going to go to like the Ultimates and Earth 616 and all the different universes. But like some of the weirdest ones I could find in comic books too. There's one where everyone is Steve Rogers, and I really want to take that one. But timely, especially since it's set in old Western setting, I feel like Tony would just be upset at the idea of not being an engineer but a blacksmith. Like I thought that'd be really hilarious to write. You know, and then season 3 is going to be kind of like the Avengers stuck in Natasha's universe, especially because I really get to write hers. The Civil Union, as everyone's been dubbing it, universe is only mentioned in one comic book, and all we know about it is that Iron Man is female and she marries Steve Rogers. So as far as like writing the series, I can do whatever I want in that universe. So get to build my own, I think would be a lot of fun. So that was coming back just because like so many future plans for that series. Which should be a good time.
I love hearing the planning and the strategy and the long-term thinking of your content.
I should show you. It's right above my desk actually right now. I have like whole cork boards with like sticky notes and maps and plans. Like I have to write scripts ahead of time or else it takes way too much time to film something. Like this whole notebook is just like filled with like random scripts from TikToks and stuff in the past.
Do you have anything on hand that from something you've already posted that people might be familiar with so we can really see in your process?
Sure. Let's see. So this is one of my most like chaotic pages ever. And this is actually from like forever ago. If anyone remembers, I think this is from the time of the Yellow Walls. But I once did like kind of a mini series of the pass the phone trends that everyone did, where they kept passing it to different Avengers. And on my page, you can actually see, so I wrote out the character's name, what they're going to say, and then who they're passing it to.
Let me make you full screen here so that everyone can see. Hold on.
So I have like, I keep forgetting that it's like an inverted screen. So I have like Shuri takes the phone and then passes it to Bucky, who passes it to, and it just kind of keeps going all the way around. So I try to plan those out, and they have all their sayings like, Shuri said, I'm going to pass this to someone who could honestly kill me. And then Okoye says, damn right, I passed the phone to a stupid, I can't even read my own handwriting. And then M'Baku says, rude, you like me, but whatever. And then it kind of keeps going, or let's see.
Do you want to hold it up so the TikTok crowd can see too?
Yeah. This
your other phone camera?
Oh yeah, my other phone camera, sure. Hi.
There we go.
On here, sorry. So you can see kind of where I mapped it out. And then this is the part of a script right there on the bottom. I'll show you guys for the first Iron Man reaction. So when the characters are reacting to the first Iron Man movie, so it's like Natasha, she's like, really, Tony? Gang signs? He's like, yes, I was a jerk. Let's move on. Wait, pause the film. Yinsen seems like a good man. He was. What is it? Is that, oh my God, I think you're right. And that's when they're talking about like Steve making an appearance, because I made it, at least in my brain canon, that Steve is actually all the Stan Lee's cameos, because that's what Marvel wanted to originally do. Right. So I have like a little thing in there. Let's see. The code names too. Here, these are some of the code names. So I would always write out the character, different nicknames I could use from them, and then some of the responses. So like, let's see, Quicksilver. Let's see. Peter Quill, Quicksilver, Speedy, what? Let's see. Oh, they said, welcome, Ralph, don't worry about it. So that would always be like Friday's response. And then I'd have like the next character, some of the nicknames that they would guess, and then what Friday would respond to them with and what nickname they would use. So
do you want to hold it up to your phone camera so folks can just see what that was? Yeah.
So character, nicknames, and then Friday's response. And I would kind of write them out like that. And then this is like a whole list of all the different series or videos that I needed to make next. But that's from like Yellow Pages time.
How long does a script normally take you, or like those pages that you showed us?
So a script itself, it's interesting. So in order to save some time, I actually end up watching the Marvel film in double time.
Yeah.
Because I've also seen them enough that I'm like, I get the general gist. I need to remember like kind of the sequence of events.
Yeah.
So I watched it in double time, and I tried to divide the movie into thirds. So for instance, when I did the Avengers movie, I forgot the Avengers film is 2.5 hours long. It does not feel like it's 2.5 hours. And so I did 50 minutes at a time. I'd watch the first 50 minutes. And then what's different about watching them now is I would try to think like, how would each character respond to different scenes? And then I start to write down, like jot down random thoughts I have while watching it, and then start to put that into a script. So with like watch time and writing it, I think each section takes me like 45, 50 minutes. And then filming it, that's like a whole other. So I tried to especially with the new one. What I normally do, and it looks really dumb, but I speak my scripts into TikToks so that I have the individual clips so that I can go back and just re-record the individual lines as many times as I want without having to erase the entire thing and
very smart
in and out of outfits. Yeah. Instead of having to change in and out of outfits a few times. And the way I used to do it is I would do one part at a time and then just like find time to film the next part. But I figured this time if I just filmed like all 3 parts, like the entire movie at one time, then it'd only be like 6 costume changes, 6 lighting moves and stands and whatever. And then I could just sit and I could record all of them. The problem is before TikTok came out with the 3-minute feature, even just a 1-minute video, normally for something like that would take me like about an hour to film.
Yeah.
And so with 3 minutes, especially now that I have more time to add more dialogue between the characters in response to stuff, I try to use as much as the 3 minutes as I can. So I go all the way to the end of the timer. And then by the time I edit down the clips, it's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. And so for some reason, I thought it would still be about similar amount of time if I just film all 3 parts at once. It was a 2-day endeavor. It was like 3 hours of filming a day. I did 3 characters one day for about 2.5 hours, and then the other 3 characters the next day for about 2.5 hours. So if you pay really close attention, you can see differences in like my hair, makeup, lighting, whatever, because it's 2 different times.
Yeah.
But it did make it slightly faster. Like other series updates, especially ones where I don't have all 3 parts planned out ahead, like Tale of Two Starks or even Modern Avengers, those take like from script to the end of editing, like maybe 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, which is insane. That's what I mean when I say that like TikTok tends to take over my life sometimes, because I've had to like schedule work and classes around like when I can film during the day. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I have all my classes either early in the morning or late at night. And when I was working, they were shifts that were also like maybe like Monday and Thursday so that I could film Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or like I would take weekend shifts so that I had like ample time during sunlight hours to film TikToks.
Absolutely. A true professional. I think that that's so impressive. And it really is a testament to how hard you work for the community you have, how hard you work for the platform you have. And, you know, I think that it's a lot of creators put in a lot of heart to what they do, and you're certainly one of those people. So kudos.
Thank you very much.
And I'm so excited now that you're not living with a loud fan. If anyone doesn't know, you can go. There's a video on the feed that explains that story. But you're in a space where you can create. You have people around you clearly that are supportive of you, and you have all of us too on the Stark Radio community. We can't wait to see what you're filming next, what you're doing next. I'm excited to see what you've hinted at for next week. We'll all certainly be looking out for that and supporting you.
There's a couple of small hints I made in this. If anyone wants to rewatch this,
some Easter eggs, we'll have to go back and figure it out. Yeah,
small hints, but
absolutely. But where can people find you? What are you excited about, and what do you want? What do you want to say to your community tonight?
Well, you guys can find me mostly on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. Mostly obviously active on TikTok. I just forget to post on Instagram and I tweet every once in a while. You can find me at LiveTasticNerd99 or just LiveTasticNerd, depending on the platform. The 99 doesn't always apply. What am I most excited about? Well, obviously this kind of collaboration next week, and some other major projects that I had to put on hold for a while that I'm starting to get back to working on and hopefully having released soon. Of course, all the Marvel films and movies are going to be super excited, and getting back into kind of the filming process and making that a part of my everyday life is super fun. Also very exciting. Being done with the school semester is going to be like the best thing ever.
Yes, totally.
And mostly, I guess, to everybody, thank you for the support. Every creator I know always freaks out whenever they have to take a break from TikTok, or whenever they have to leave, or whenever they need to slow down their posting, because they're worried that the minute they don't start posting consistently or putting a lot of content out there, they start to lose that following and that support. And I've yet to see that. Every single time I come back, it's, you know, met with really warm welcome and amazing, never-ending support from everybody. So thank you guys all so much. Also, for the nickname Marvel Mom, people still call me that. Which I love it. It's funny. My sister was like, "Did you come up with that?" I'm like, "No, they did that.
It was thrust upon you.
It was thrust upon me." So it's definitely, I guess, a title that I try to live up to a little bit. And every time I come back and I'm met with like overwhelming support, it always warms my heart. So just thank you guys for like the endless support on TikTok. You guys are all the best. I never thought this could happen, so thank you for that.
Well, we can't wait to see what's next. 100,000 and even more to come. Community strong. Libtastic Nerd 99, everybody. Let's see some likes in the chat, some applause in the chat.
Thank you guys so much.
I know the feeds all kind of time it at different times, so I'll just say a few quick things before we sign off for the night. Marissa and Alexis are back with me live. Next time you see us, we'll be talking about the Hawkeye After series. That will start the Sunday after the show premieres. So the show comes out Wednesday. That Sunday we'll be on live, and all the details are coming tomorrow on Instagram and our TikTok feeds about that, which is super exciting.
Next week on the 24th.
On the
Very
24th.
exciting.
Very exciting. And with that, we will say goodnight. Thank you, everyone, for watching on TikTok.
Good night, everyone.
I always hang up the TikTok feed first because I forget sometimes. So we'll say goodnight to everyone on TikTok.
Thank you so much for having me.
No
good night,
problem.
everybody. Love you all 3000, and may the force be with you. Bye, TikTok.
And we'll say goodnight to everyone on YouTube and Twitch. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you do whatever it is on the platform you're doing. Subscribe, like, follow, whatever it is. And we'll see y'all for the big announcement about Hawkeye tomorrow on Instagram and TikTok. Bye, everybody.
Yes. Bye, everyone.